Am I on? Okay. Hi, I'm Buzz Savage, good friend of Len Collins, host of the Just Chillin' Show. And right now, you can call this number, 861-4246, for a special giveaway.
Welcome back to Just Chillin'. Once again, we're talking about heat-related injuries. Dr. Clark, can you reintroduce yourself to Cleveland?
Again, I'm Dr. Walter Clark, Medical Director at Northeast Ohio Neighborhood Health Services Incorporated, better known as NEON, or also Huff Norwood.
Okay, Doc, we left off, you were talking about heat exhaustion. Can you define that again?
Well, again, heat exhaustion is one step removed from heat stroke, and if not treated, heat exhaustion can progress to heat stroke.
Okay.
I'd like to talk a little bit about heat cramps, one step removed from heat exhaustion. Some of the early things, heat cramps are like muscle spasms or muscle pains that usually occur in areas like the abdomen, the legs, the arms, and would occur in association with strenuous activity like football training, basketball, whatever. People who sweat a lot during strenuous activity can develop heat cramps. This sweating reduces the amount of salt and water in the body. And it is this low level of salt in the body under these circumstances that lead to muscle irritability and thereafter cramps. And that's what it is. So it's an electrolyte problem. And as said earlier, heat cramps may be a sign, an early sign, or one sign of heat exhaustion. If a person has heart problems or are on a low sodium diet, they should seek medical attention for heat cramps, because in those situations they may already have starting off with a low salt level. So a little bit more loss in salt might actually be problematic for them. Okay, so what to do? Oh, I'm sorry.
I guess the question
yes.
was, because it's kind of confusing. I guess if people are talking about health and they say
yes.
too much salt is bad for you, then what do you do to get a little salt in your diet when you're competing?
Right.
Or?
Well, again, in this situation, you're talking about you're losing not only salt, but you're losing fluids.
Okay.
So what you want to do is replace the fluids and a little bit of salt, because when you sweat, you're not losing salt tablets of sweat.
Okay.
You're just losing you're losing just a little bit of salt in that sweat. So it's dilute relative to what's really inside your body.
So can young people just sprinkle a little extra salt, or?
Well, you know, that's one way to look at it. In fact, you probably can make your own sports concoction. Okay. A little sugar, a little salt, more water, a whole lot of water, and if it gets to tasting like kind of like salty like Gatorade, then you know you about got it. Okay, but I mean, that's a very good point. Okay. I mean, Gatorade is kind of expensive, so that might be something you might want to look into. Then. But what do you do if you have heat cramps? First of all, you stop all activity. You sit in a quiet, cool place. You drink fruit juice or a sports beverage, or you make your own concoction that fits the bill. Don't return to that strenuous activity for a couple of hours. Do you hear what I'm saying? After the cramps subside, because further exertion can lead to what?
Heat exhaustion.
Thank you. Heat exhaustion, or beyond that, heat stroke. So in a situation where you should seek medical attention is when these heat cramps do not settle down in 1 hour again. Okay. Now, there are some medications. Now, so I've said a little bit about heat cramps. Let me talk a little bit about some medications that will increase the risk, one's risk for heat-related illness. There are certain medicines that people take with mental conditions, what we call psychotropic medications. You've heard of things like Haldol and things like that. Trouble in a hot environment. A medication for Parkinson's disease, similarly, can cut down on a person's ability to respond appropriately to the heat. Tranquilizers, obviously, can cause you problems because you don't know you're getting hot. You're sedated and so forth, and so you get into some problems with that. Now, there are a few electric fans blowing in this very room we're in. I think it's about 92 degrees outside, if I'm not mistaken. So the question is, how effective are electric fans in preventing heat-related illness? Electric fans do provide comfort, but when the temperature is in the high 90s, fans do not prevent heat-related illness.
Wow.
Taking a cool shower or bath or moving to an air-conditioned place is a much better way to cool off. Air conditioning, again, is the greatest protection against heat-related illness. Exposure to air conditioning for even a few hours a day, all right, will reduce your risk for heat-related illness. And that's something I didn't know until I did some research. I didn't realize that. But in consider visiting a shopping mall or public libraries.
Cool.
Usually very cool in a public library for a few hours. Nobody's going to kick you out. I mean, your tax dollars have paid for its being there. How can people protect their health when temperatures are extremely high? Remember to keep cool and use common sense. Drink plenty of fluids, replace salts and minerals like we talked about earlier, wear appropriate clothing and sunscreen, pace yourself. Like if you're cutting grass out there, if you're playing basketball out in the sun, if you're playing football, pace yourself, stay cool indoors, schedule outdoor activities carefully. Use a buddy system. Don't go out there training by yourself. Make certain that somebody's out there not training as hard as you are, because it'd be kind of crazy for two people to fall out. You know. But a buddy system would be where, hey, watch me, man. You know, if you see me getting in trouble, help me out. Okay. Look after those people your loved ones and friends who you know could also have trouble. And the other thing is to just simply try to adjust. You know, settle down, adjust to an environment. How much should a person drink? How much should I drink during hot weather? Well, one possibility is during hot weather, you should drink. Well, let's say this. When it's hot outside, you often need to drink more water than your thirst tells you to. Okay? I mean, you may think you have enough, but in fact, if it's so hot out there, you're sweating. You're sort of gradually getting into a dehydrated state, losing salts and things like that. So really, regardless to your thirst, you should increase. Yeah, you should increase the amount of fluids that you're drinking, and 2 to 4 glasses of water every hour when it's really hot. Okay. So and again, I know I'm a lay this one to his dead, but avoid drinks that contain alcohol because they actually cause you to lose more fluid. Okay. Should a person take salt tablets during hot weather? We talked about that, didn't we? Okay. Do not take salt tablets unless directed by your doctor. So if someone wants to think about doing it, then they need to see someone like me, their family physician, and ask the question: what is enough? What's not? What's too much, and so forth. Heavy sweating removes salt and minerals from the body that we talked about. These are necessary for the body. Therefore, they must be replaced, these salts and minerals that you lose. And the easiest and safest way to do it is through just eating, because you usually have ample amount of salt in the food you eat. Fruit juices or sports beverages when you exercise or work in the heat also is very important. What is the best clothing for hot weather? Well, you know what it is, as little as possible. I mean, and also, when you're out there in the hot sun, try to use a sunscreen, even for people of African American descent. Use a sun protection factor of about more than 15. That'll be helpful to kind of deal with the possibility of sunburn, because that's a problem as well. What should you do if you work in a hot environment? Again, let's talk about it. Pace yourself. If you're not accustomed to working or exercising in a hot environment, start slowly. Pick up the pace gradually. And if exertion in the heat makes your heart pound, okay, and leave you gasping for breath like Corey Stringer was the day before he died, stop all activity. Yeah, let him off for practice. The reason he survived another day is because coach said, "You through today, man." Okay.
Well, I'm thinking about, and I want to harp on these landscape guys because Chris is a landscape guy.
Okay.
But the supervisor, like, guys, we got to get this project done today.
Yes.
And they're pushing you.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you handle that?
Well, that's political, man. It's about keeping your job, but the way you should handle it is to be steadfast in your understanding of what you have to deal with in terms of taking care of your body. Man, I understand that that I'm prone to having heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke, and these are the things I must do to prevent me from getting there. You're on notice for having heard that. Boss, okay. You get my drift? So if something happens to me, then guess what boss must have to deal with if in the event, in the situation that something does happen to the person, the employee who said that, I understand my condition, these things I have to do, and was not allowed to do those things. I think you have to fight it with understanding and information, because the boss might not know that. The coach may not know that. You get my drift?
Okay.
Okay. So sunburn is also a significant problem, and you know, we've seen sunburn before. You know, I think in infants, if they get sunburn, they should be taken to a doctor because their skin is not able to adapt as well, and that should be dealt with. Fever, fluid-filled blisters, and severe pain are those kinds of signs and symptoms of sunburn. You've seen it before. Heat rash is a mild condition, but can be problematic in children. But it's probably not something I want to talk too much about other than keeping the skin cool and taking care of yourself.
Yes, Doc, in closing, is there any way you want to summarize this for the young people out there who may be ripping and running, playing football or running cross country, just playing, period, to encourage them to...
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would like to say that these suggestions, the things that I've said, should not be used in the place of seeking medical attention. These suggestions are more for the purpose of helping a person identify problems and responding to them quickly. And the best form of avoiding these types of problems related to heat is to remain in a cool place and take sufficient fluids. I mean, that's really the most important thing.
Okay, and for elderly population, a word of hope for them?
Well, again, I said earlier that there are some resources that people should take advantage of, and a lot of times by calling your local public health, Department of Public Health, they can give you suggestions on what to do. You can call your utility companies. Oftentimes they have some ways to hook you up with certain opportunities, air conditioned units, or the power to run those air conditioned units. So I would hope. And then the other thing is to make certain when you're elderly that you have somebody checking on you. You know, call and say, "Hey, child, will you check on me?" Make certain, because it is hot up here. I'm trying to do my best, but check on me every couple of hours if you want. Or come on by or take me to the mall or something. But don't just sit there and accept the misery and pain and suffering of heat, particularly if there are people around there who you know are concerned. Don't feel that you're a bother to them, because you'll be more a bother if you end up dying on their potential watch. That would be my words of suggestion.
Okay, once again, in closing, I'd like to thank Doc for being with us tonight. Just Chillin's a joint production of the City of Cleveland Health Department, Cleveland Treatment Center, and WRUW-FM. Thanks to Harold and Chris for outstanding technical assistance. Thank you. Thanks, Doc.
Sure.
Crazy for thinking that my love could hold